Net present value will be discussed in this video. Net present value, NPV, is one of the most popular methods for analyzing the financial feasibility of a project. This method is based on the concept of time value of money. First, we will introduce the concept of time value of money and then explain the NPV method with an example. According to the time value of money concept, money at the present time is worth more than the same amount of money to be received in the future. For example, $50,000 today worth more than $50,000 after 2 years. Conversely, $50,000 after 2 years will worth less than $50,000 today. This is true because money that we have right now can be invested and earn a return, thus creating a larger amount of money in the future. A project will have cash inflows and also some cash outflows in the future years. But the future cash flows from a project will worth less today. For example, if we receive a return of $50,000 from a project after 1 year, the value of that $50,000 today is less. That is why we need to discount the future cash flows of the project by a discount rate so that we can understand what is today's value of receiving $50,000 after 1 year. We can define discount rate as the rate of return that an organization requires from its investment in the project. If an organization requires 15% return from its projects, then the discount rate will be 15%. We will use this percentage rate to discount all future cash flows from a project. This discounting will give us present value, PV, of all future cash flows, FV, of the project. Discounted cash flow. There is a discounting formula which helps us to calculate the present value of future cash flows. PV is equal to FV, multiplied by 1 divided by 1 plus R power n, where PV is the present value of cash flows, FV is the future value of cash flows, R is the discount factor, that is organization's required rate of return from a project, N is the number of time periods in years. Let us say a project will have a $50,000 cash flow, that is FV, at the end of year 1, which is N. The required rate of return or discount rate, R, for the project is 15%. To calculate the present value, or PV, we take $50,000 and multiply it by 1 divided by 1.15 to the power of 1. This can be expressed as $50,000 multiplied by 0.870, which is a factor taken from the present value table. This calculation gives us a present value of $43,500. The figure suggests that receiving $50,000 after 1 year will be valued as receiving $43,500 today by the company. Let us take another example of discounting the future cash flow. The project will have a $70,000 cash flow, that is FV, at the end of year 2, that is N. The required rate of return or discount rate, R, for the project is still 15%. So PV is equal to $70,000 multiplied by 1 divided by 1.15 power 2. This can be expressed as $70,000 multiplied by 0.756, which is a factor taken from the present value table. This calculation gives us a present value of $52,920. The figure suggests that receiving $70,000 after 2 years will be valued as receiving $52,920 today. That is, at a discount rate of 15% present value of $70,000 received after 2 years is $52,920. Calculating NPV. In order to calculate net present value, or NPV, we need to have present value of all future cash flows of the project. That is, we need to convert all future cash inflows and cash outflows of the project into discounted cash flows. The NPV will be the difference between the present value of cash inflows and the present value of cash outflows. If the NPV is positive, then the project should be undertaken. If the NPV is positive, the project will generate a return greater than the required rate of return of the organization. If the NPV is negative, then the project should not be undertaken. If the NPV is negative, the project will generate a return less than the required rate of return. If the NPV is exactly 0, the project will yield a return the same as the required rate of return. Here, the organization will be indifferent about whether it should undertake the project or not. Let's discuss net present value with an example. Tech Store Limited is considering a project which is expected to generate cash flows. In year 0, the cash flow is negative $100,000 due to the initial investment. In year 1, the cash flow is $50,000. In year 2, the cash flow increases to $70,000. In year 3, the cash flow is $30,000. And finally, in year 4, the cash flow is $20,000. Tech Store's required rate of return is 15%. We are required to calculate the NPV of the project and assess whether it should be undertaken. These discount factors will be relevant. They have been taken from the discount factor table. We need to multiply the project's cash flows by their respective discount factors. This will give us the present value of all cash flows from the project. We create a table with relevant headings and insert data accordingly. Please note that any cash flows that occur now at the start of a project occur in year 0. The discount factor for year 0 is 1. This means that cash flows occurring now in year 0 do not need to be discounted because they are already at present value. So the PV of year 0 is negative $100,000. For years 1 and 2, the calculations are already shown in this video. At the end of year 3, the project will generate cash inflow of $30,000. Discount factor for 3 years with required rate of return 15% is 0.658. We will now multiply $30,000 by 0.658. This will give us a present value of $19,740. Again, the project will generate a cash flow of $20,000 at the end of year 4. Discount factor for 4 years with required rate of return 15% is 0.572. We will multiply $20,000 by 0.572. This will give us a present value of $11,440. In order to calculate the NPV of the project, we need to add up all present value figures, outflows, and inflows in the last column of the table. For this project, present value of cash inflows exceeds the present value of cash outflows by $27,600. This means the project has a positive NPV, and it is likely to earn a return of more than 15%. Hence, according to the NPV method, the project should be undertaken by the company.